Topic today is how to predict organic conversions without the need of expensive tools. And the main theory behind this one was last Optimisey event I went to was the first one I went to, and I was really taken back by the warmth within the group. And what also struck me was everyone was at different levels. And for me, as doing a talk, I kind of wanted to give something back to everyone at every different level. So what I've tried to do is create a specific talk exclusively for us today that covers off the entry-level requirements of someone that's just learning SEO, because it's incredibly difficult to learn, and also to help with the people that are mid-range into SEO so that they can continue their development and maybe go, oh yeah, that's a good idea, I should be doing that. And then obviously for the higher end people that are probably used to this kind of stuff, that actually that either jogs them to go, probably should be doing that a bit more, or go, yeah, I already do that in a better way, which kind of solidifies what they know already. So just to give you an introduction, my name's Richard Petersen-Hall. I'm currently the inbound marketing manager at Clinkt. Clinkt is the leading white label client provider. So basically we provide white label services for people's portals, really. So we work with many large clients, and yeah, it's a really good company that I've been working for just about 7 months now. So prior to that, I was agency side. I started at Zazzle Media back in 2013. So I headed up the SEO team, and I had about six direct reports of SEO. And so when I started there in 2013, I was employee number 8, and I think when I left 7 months ago, we were about 53 people. So it's obviously quite a fast-growing agency. More recently, it got bought out by the 4th largest advertising agency in the world, IPG. So yeah, definitely something to take notice of in the region. But that's enough about me. So the talk today will be basically covering off, why do we actually need to predict conversions in the first place? We're going to talk about what kind of numbers we need. We're going to also talk about the process and how to create those predictions. We're then going to look at the possible issues with these predictions. Like with any predictions, there's always, some things that could be improved or made better. And then the final thing is to improve the numbers. So once you've actually got the basics of the equations, I suppose is the best way to put it, then it's how you take that to the next level, and that's really down to you guys. So first of all, full disclosure. All these numbers that I'm using in this presentation is all fictitious. It's very difficult. I don't really want to reveal numbers or people, so everything's made up, but it's just to get the point across. Also, these aren't these very pretty slides. They haven't got flashy GIFs. They haven't got any sexiness, so I apologise, but it's very much trying to get the point across. And also, I'm not going to be mentioning about any of the following topics. Brexit, Bitcoin, GDPR, and finally, probably the most important, I think, of the night, is the Spice Girls reunion. So why do we need to predict organic conversions? So I think one thing that everybody will relate to if they are working on SEO is actually that one of the biggest frustrations is knowing where to focus your attention. It's knowing, if I put my energy and effort into these keywords, are they really going to achieve something? So this method is ideally meant to point you in the right direction, at least give you the best bang for your buck. The second thing it also does is it makes it easier to get buy-in. Quite often, if you approach your boss and say, boss, I need an infographic. And he says, how much is it going to cost? And you say £1,000. He says, and what's it going to do? And you go, it's going to look pretty. Or you've got the other option where you turn around and say, boss, we need an infographic. He asks how much it's going to cost. You say £1,000. He then says, what's it going to do? And you say, well, we believe that it will achieve about 3 to 4 links. And with those 3 to 4 links, actually, we believe that we'll get 2 or 3 higher places for our keywords. And as a result of that, we reckon we can get an extra 4 to 5 sales a month. So it's a lot more clearer. Now, those numbers don't even have to be right. He's not going to be mad at you, or she's not going to be mad at you if you only hit 2 sales. The fact you've used numbers and actually communicated in a language that's not technical, it's financial, makes it so much easier. So what do we need in order to make these predictions? So first thing we're going to need is Google Analytics. And specifically, we're going to need to know the goal conversion rates. So in order to get the goal conversion rates within Google Analytics, there's a couple of things you can either do. You can either do e-commerce tracking, and if you are e-commerce store, I suggest you kind of find out from your store provider how to include that. The other kind of tracking is just normal kind of contact us form. So today I'm going to go through just quickly how to set it up. It's quite basic stuff. So in order to track your goal conversions within Google Analytics, go onto Google Analytics, and in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little settings button. And so you click on the settings button. Then this will appear, which is on the third column along, which is your goals. Click on your goals, and then new form will appear, which will ask you, if you click the red button, hit for new goal. I don't know why, but they have these pre-made templates they made years ago. Ignore them and go straight onto custom and click continue. And then what we want to do is you want to give your goal a name. So for this instance, we're doing a contact form submitted. And then we're going to select destination goal, because the main aim is to hit the thank you page, basically. Hit continue. And then the final thing is you stick the thank you page URL in the top box. Now, one key thing when you're doing this is if you've got more than one form for submissions, you must make sure that the thank you page is separate for each one. So for example, if you have one form for contact us and another form for a brochure request, you've got to make sure that they don't have the same thank you page. Reason being is because then your goal tracking will start recording. If you have one contact us and then one brochure sign up, they'll both say they've got two sign-ups. So in order to make it accurate, it should have a different URL per goal you're trying to track. Also, you can turn on this funnel feature that allows you in the back end of Google to see the conversion rate from the first to the second. It helps you understand how the flow works, but again, it doesn't fix that problem of not both having the same thank you pages, so just be wary of that. So what you need to do is click save, there's a verify button, wait for 30 days, and then it will start populating with some data. So basically what you get is a conversion rate. So in this instance, and remember it's basic numbers, so we get a conversion rate for the site of 2%. Okay? We got, next section is the completed goals. So we actually got 50 goals completed. So that means 50 forms submitted. And then we've got a final one, which is a goal value. Now, goal value, when you actually have a goal submit, you can actually include the financial figure. It's very difficult to actually use that. So in this case, we're not going to be using that with any of these numbers. So with this data, this is from the 1st of January to the 31st of January. So a 31-day period, and we got a conversion rate of 2 and 50 goals submits. Next thing we're going to need is Google Search Console. So Google Search Console is the tool that Google uses to communicate with website owners. Basically, it tries to make Google's life as easy as possible by communicating to you when you need things fixing, because then it reduces the amount of crawl that Google has to do. And as a result, then it gives you a boost in rankings. So this is what Google Search Console looks like, but specifically we're going to be looking at a new tool, which is Google Search Console Beta. Can we have a show of hands to see how many people actually are using this yet? Oh, nice, wonderful. Okay, so this got released, I believe, a couple of months ago. I'm not sure, but I know that if you are like me, you're loving the data that's available in it. Everyone has access to it at the moment. So basically you go in Search Console, and there's a link in the top left. That was the right side, wasn't it? Yeah, left and right's not good. So you click on the top left and it will take you through to this screen. Okay, so at the moment, because it's in beta form, it's only got a cut down version of the tools. So that's why it's running both tools in parallel at the moment. But specifically what we're going to be looking at today is the performance section. So to get into the performance section, you click on the open report, and then you're displayed with this, this new display that we've got. And so the main things we're looking at is the total clicks. So now Google actually tells you the total amount of clicks, which it did before, but the date range is higher. We've got total impressions. Now this is the amount of times that your listing has appeared within Google. We've got date range we can set, because currently it's set to the last 3 months on that one. And then we have this extra filter, which I think is one of the best features of the new Search Console, which allows you to kind of filter down to keyword types, geographical location, and actual page URLs as well. So if you scroll down a bit, you'll start seeing we changed the date range from the 1st of January to the 31st of January. So this marries up with the same date ranges that we had in Google Analytics. And so in Search Console now, we can actually see all the keywords that people are using to find our site. We also got a list of how many clicks that each of the keywords get. And then we've also got the impression rate of each keyword. So for this talk, we're not going to be using the click rate. We're going to be using the impressions, the date range, and the queries. So in order to turn that off, you scroll up to the top, click on the total clicks button, and it removes that from the listing. And double check that we've got the right date range. And so if we scroll down then, we can start looking at the keywords that we've got. So the first one is blue widgets. And it's saying there's 1,744 impressions. That means you haven't got 1,744 clicks. It basically means that you've been visible in 1,744 search results. So now we know that figure, we can use the other figures that we've got from Google Analytics to kind of give us some indication of what possible traffic we might get. The final thing we need to do in order to get this done is this is Advanced Web Ranking CTR study. So this basically once a month, these guys track a lot of keywords. And so what they do is they plot every month the average conversion rate. So if position 1, you'll get a click-through rate averagely. Position 2, position 3. It's not very easy to read this up. So I'd note that URL down and have a look at it at a later date. But we know that ranking number 1, you get a conversion rate, an average conversion rate of 27.51. Now, there's lots of variance. The maximum click-through rate I think you'll ever get within a SERP, personally, I think is about 40%, and that's if you're probably a brand. Possibly might get it more, maybe up to possible 50, but at the end of the day, if you use this data, it keeps it a bit more sane. So we're saying that if you rank number 1, the average conversion rate is 27.51. That means of all the people that search for that keyword, that amount's likely to come through. So if we've got an impressions of 1,744 for blue widgets, and we times that by the conversion rate, if we rank number 1, we can make a prediction that actually we'll get 480 clicks, which is kind of handy to know. So ranking number 1, we're going to get 480 clicks for the keyword blue widgets. So let's take this a step further. So now we know that we're going to get 480 clicks, so 480 visitors from organic Google. And if we times that by our average conversion rate that we found on our site using Google Analytics, we now know that we'll get 9.6 sales, or rounding up, it's blue widgets equals 10 sales a month. So there are some possible issues with this method. The first one is this method doesn't work very well if you don't rank in the top 10. So if you rank on page 2, your impressions are going to be far lower. And this method doesn't really give you a chance to kind of give it a boost or put it in a level playing field. And I racked my brains trying to think up a wonderful way we can get around this. And what I've really focused on is kind of like you need to get your rankings in top 10. You know, the way Google's situated is very much like a football squad, league, I suppose. So if you're not in the top 100, you're not even playing football. If you're in the top 100, you're kind of playing non-league kind of stuff. So when you're in the top 100, your main aim should be to get in the top 30. Top 30 is kind of like your entry level to a pro, where you're probably getting a wage, but you're not doing massively brilliantly. So when you're in the top 30, your main aim is to get into the top 20. When you're in the top 20, your main aim is to get in the top 10. When you're in the top 10, that's when you can start looking at this stuff and you can start introducing it into your workflow. Also, this method doesn't work particularly well if you have more than one ranking in the keyword in the listing. So sometimes you can have position 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. It doesn't happen quite so much, but it does tend to not make it as easy to predict. So it makes it a little bit difficult. Also, I think you'll probably be thinking this anyway when you saw it earlier, but the conversion rate that we're using is a site-wide conversion, and we all know that's not always consistent across the whole board. Now, I will cover off that more in just a minute. Same way as before, it doesn't take into account commercial intent. So let's just say we've got blue widgets, which I believe was something like 1,722 impressions. Imagine if the keyword widget was like 1 million impressions. then the old methods would say, well, we need to go after widget. Now, commercial intent is obviously, is someone willing to buy it, or are we going to get customers from it? So what we can do with that one is apologies. We will actually cover that off in another slide in a minute. It will go through how to deal with that issue of understanding commercial intent. Also, this one as well. So it doesn't take into account like a difficult competitor. So sometimes you will be up against Amazon, and sometimes you'll be up against a particular keyword, a particular competitor that you're not going to beat. And for that reason, what you need to do is go back to the CTR study and lower yourself by one. You need to be realistic and understand that if you're not going to be one, that's fine. Actually, it's probably even better being realistic with yourself, because if you're doing this kind of study for all your keywords across the whole, but actually, grey widgets, you're never going to rank number one for it. So you need to do the calculation if you were click-through rate at 2, and it will give you an idea of where to focus your attention. So, final bit, how to improve the process. So, one of the things you need to do is calculate different conversion rates for different countries. I think quite often people are very fixated on how much traffic they're getting on a monthly basis, or how much, how many visits they're getting or users. But actually, are you really concentrating on the countries you actually operating in? If you only operate in the UK, are you not segregating your target market? And I think actually, if you start focusing purely, if you're UK based and you only deal with the UK, if you start dealing only with UK traffic, then I think you'll get a shock in terms of your conversion rate. It will start improving. Next one, page level conversion rates. So basically, we all know that when you get your keyword sets, you tend to group them together. So for example, if we're talking about widgets, the keywords like blue widget, blue widgets, widget blue, big blue widgets, I'd probably group them all into one keyword set. And I'd probably target them on all one page, and that page will be / blue widgets. Now, homepage might convert at 1%, but / blue widgets may convert at 2.3%. So if you start using different conversion rates based on different landing pages, you can actually get a better understanding, because then it takes into account the commercial intent more. This is what helps that issue out. So, for example, if we look at the widgets keyword, which I said got 1,000 impressions, if you work out and say, well, actually the conversion rate on widgets, which is on the home page, gets a conversion rate of 0.00007, and you do that against a million impressions, you probably find that the internal pages and targeting things like blue widgets may be more effective. So here's some takeaways. First of all, know your numbers. I think it's really difficult and it's challenging on a day-to-day basis when you're working hard and you're focusing on rankings, but actually you need to start really understanding your numbers truly. Start looking into the areas you're in, start focusing on UK, for instance, start understanding what the difference is between your different landing pages. Second thing is, once you've done this kind of thing, continue to update it. Now, I'm not saying to do it once a week, because if you're doing it once a week, you've probably got too much free time on your hands. You really should be doing this probably once every 3 months. It's kind of one of those things you think, I really need to do that and get round to it, and you should see some growth. One of the other issues that I probably didn't highlight is seasonality. It doesn't take into account. So, you might find, and market conditions as well. So if you start monitoring these things, then actually it will highlight to you whether a market is growing or reducing. Next thing, and this is the thing I've always kind of really been a believer in, is making predictions. So why not make a prediction of how much traffic you believe you will get if you rank for a particular keyword, and keep a mental note of that, even record it down and kind of calculate that against what you've actually got. And so then what you could do is you can use that to adjust in future to really understand how the predictions are going. For example, you might find that a particular keyword on a particular landing page, it's predicted that you'll get 10 conversions a month, but actually in truth, you might only get 8. And if you find that in your market that actually everything's the same -2, then you can apply that calculation to the rest of your figures. So that's it. Is there any questions?